Will, slightly new episode segment. This is the crisscross segment. There's a lot of words, and
Question.
yeah,
Quick question.
go.
We got a segment typo. SEGMENT. We want to get the segment. We got to fix that.
Segment.
That's Spanish.
Welcome to an all-new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. This podcast explores leadership traits under stress with a special guest each week. We use a simple and accurate OAD assessment to identify key personality traits or superpowers, as well as the shadow side, kryptonite traits that appear when we're under stress. As always, we'll have some pod banter, shameless plugging, and we'll even let our guests talk for a bit. Of course, no humble brags. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield.
Yes.
Will, how are you today?
Oh, stellar. I hope you are, Mr. Lane.
I am. We have a great guest, as always.
Gosh,
Hey, do you have any banter, or do I have to carry the water again this week?
No, it's all on you.
This is episode 33 of me carrying the water. I'm going to turn into a hunchback. Okay, so a couple of things. One is starting to promote. These should come out around the same time, but we are doing a live continuing education presentation with the Raleigh Metro chapter of SHRM.
Yes.
It's pretty exciting.
It will be. Yeah, a couple hours worth of content that you have constructed beautifully.
Yes, I sent it off to Olivia today. Hi, Olivia. So we're looking forward to that. We're also starting to work on our anniversary shows. There will be two. Leslie, we're coming up to our 1-year anniversary.
Oh, that's
and we're booked right up until our anniversary. We're somehow quite popular, and no one watches. So I'm working on the data for that.
Do you expect flowers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you have to ask, that means you're in the doghouse.
Well, my wife's birthday was yesterday, and I actually did an edible arrangement. She really enjoyed it.
Very nice. Very nice. And then last is, here's a little bit of banter. So Leslie is, and she'll introduce herself in a minute. Leslie is an excellent LinkedIn poster. She talks about sales and all this kind of stuff. Period. I get a lot of really bad cold outreach. And so I promised Leslie that every time I get one, I'm going to send a link to her post. And so I did that today. And it is a wonderful post talking about something like getting away from general personalization. Like, hi, John, I noticed that you work at the company that bears your name in it. Doesn't really move the ball forward very much, and it's just dumb automation. So anyway.
Before we leave that topic, I got one last week that was great.
Yeah.
It said, hello, insert name. So, I mean, talk about bad outreach. I'm just serious. It did. It had little carrots. Carrot, insert name. And at the end, insert name. So they really didn't do their homework before they sent that one.
Did you buy?
20 of them.
So it worked.
Yeah.
It was
I put it on the NCOAD credit card, too.
Oh, God. I wonder why that was moving again. Right. Welcome to the pod. I'm John Lane.
And I am Will Barfield.
He is Will Barfield. I'm going to point to you. And we are
a work in progress, for sure.
Progress. We have a guest, as always.
Oh, yes.
Introduce yourself, please.
Well, hello, gents, and everybody listening. Thanks so much for having me. I am Leslie Venetz. I left corporate about 18 months ago to bet on myself. So I am a full-time founder. I run a B2B sales training and sales-led go-to-market consulting company. And I do it all working a 4-day work week.
Which is awesome. Now, I asked you when we spoke or something if you knew Amber Dybert. She was a guest a few weeks ago. She is a working mom and kind of in the same spot. I think she said she does a 20-hour work week. So not so much days, but hours. And she kicks ass. All right. Explain this, please.
My AI image?
Yes, talk about that. It's like the Leslie robot. I mean, it's real, but...
I know. It's so fun.
Right?
So I have been using Gen AI for probably about 18 to 24 months. I'm an equity advisor for two
Wow.
organizations that use Gen AI. So I was using it before it became, it like blew up
Before
the
it
last
became cool.
before it became cool. And I think there are some concerns around ethical debt, but I also think it's just super, super fun and we can use it to be playful. So I used it to create a bunch of LinkedIn headshots. And it was an extremely intensive process. Like it took hours and hours and hours to get enough photos in that it could create the outputs. And still, most of the original outputs were like baby half hand poses or just like two big teeth or crazy eyes. There was a lot of crazy eyes,
Like,
but there were a few that were dramatic and striking and clearly AI, but like so fun. And why not?
yeah,
Why not use them?
I love that. When you told me that, I was like, wow, that's kind of impressive. But every time I see one of them, I'm like, that's Leslie, but it's not. And so it takes me a little bit, but it looks like you're in some dramatic movie shot. What, Will? Jump in.
I didn't know any of this. That's very interesting. I had no idea what you were talking about. I thought it was a very striking picture, but I didn't know it was created by AI. That's news to me. Like totally cool.
Cool, right? Yeah. All right. Let's just jump in, and I'll just remind everybody that my first girlfriend's name is Leslie. That has apropos of nothing.
Spelled the same way?
Yeah.
And Leslie instead of Leslie?
Yes.
Hmm.
Interesting, right? Oh, this is an episode maybe my wife isn't going to watch. Okay. Well, I mean, who cares? It was in college years ago. All right. You notice Will looked away and took a drink because he knows. All right. So, as everybody knows, we talk about leadership traits under stress. And people ask us, Will, what do they ask us?
They ask us why
Where?
we use the OAD tool
Where?
to help with creation of these superpowers and kryptonites with our leaders who were studying how they react to stress.
Exactly. It's like you can barely tell how much we've practiced. It's really nice.
Yeah. Yep. That's called 0 reps.
As Will mumbled through, we use the OAD assessment to come up with strengths and weaknesses. We cleverly convert them into superpowers and kryptonites, and that is what gives us our content to talk about today.
Yeah. Last week's recording, he made me read the slide.
Yeah.
He just police lights me. He's like, "All right, you're on."
Right.
One thing we know is that people love to be showing slides while somebody just reads the exact thing that they are reading themselves. It's
Very true. I crushed it. Yeah. I showed off my ability to read.
Yes.
That elementary school paid off.
But you popped that myth, so there's some benefit. All right. So in OAD land, we give a simple explanation via the OAD leadership style matrix. So in this world, I am a socially oriented generalist in the builder quadrant and a negotiator. I love my pointer. I don't know if I can spin it. Will is a technically oriented generalist in the architect quadrant and a developer. Mm-hmm. Leslie is a socially oriented generalist in the builder quadrant, but she is an influencer. And what a great background for a creator. You were an influencer before influencers were influencers.
Are you sure?
Yeah, why not go with it? Okay. Will?
I'm on. So, Leslie, how does it feel to have your career and your personality traits and all those things compressed into a 2-dimensional table?
I like it. I mean, I know this technically isn't like a personality test, but I'm a sucker for personality tests. I love them. I think they're fun. The snapshot, it's great.
Had you ever taken one that was like this, that was that simple, 2 pages of word selection and out. Have you been through something as quick as this one?
I think the Colby one was similar, but not as succinct.
Yeah.
Good. And not as fun because it didn't result in a podcast, I don't think.
And not as fun, for sure. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. We fish for a lot of compliments around
Oh, we do. Yeah.
You haven't noticed that already. Okay.
This is the best one I've ever done.
Wow. That pull quote's going to be all over our website.
I'll Venmo you that $20.
Need a website. Wait, what'd you say? I stepped on your
I'm a
line.
Venmo or $20.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's break this down. So in the OID world, everyone's results come out in a nice table like this. And we look at assertiveness, extroversion, patience, and detail orientation. And so, like me, Leslie is a 9. Actually, I'm an 8 of extroversion and detail orientation. Now, those don't really matter. The scores don't matter. It's their relative traits. So the A is greater than the D, so she is a generalist. The E is greater than D, so she's a socially oriented. Thus, she is in the upper right. What I like about Leslie's profile is that what we call this a hookback D.
Yeah.
And it's a very high intensity.
Yeah,
and that's going to come up later in the show, which is called foreshadow for you English majors.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. Okay. So just to break it down a little bit more, Leslie is a very open, very venturesome. She is comfortable with ambiguity. She started her own business. She left corporate America. She's social. She's open. She's optimistic. She's got a sunny personality. Everything you would expect in an upper right. Go to my pointer. This P over here, this measures 2 things, Leslie. One is how comfortable you are with change and what level of urgency do you operate with. And in both of these cases, you have a lot of urgency and you are comfortable with change. And I think that's something that is probably important when you're thinking about starting your own business and things like that. So that's the high level breakdown. We are going to move into our builder, our generic builder. Well, why am I doing your slide?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Have I been fired from my unpaid job?
No.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Sorry, I can keep moving the slide because the pointer gets stuck. Will, you're on.
I'm on. I'm going to let Leslie get a sip of water there.
No, we had a spit take opportunity.
Yeah. So, Leslie, anyone who lands in the upper right quadrant, generic slide here, builder influencer, is going to get these raw superpowers as an output. So that's going to happen for anyone that profiles similar to you. But of these, is there one that stands out as like, yes, that sounds like me, or others tell me that's me, or just, feels like a fit? Can you pick one of those and why?
Picking one is hard. I would struggle between persuasive because I've literally built my entire career in an art of persuasion, but I would go towards optimistic demeanor because that is something that I spend a ton of time on. Like I actively focus on rewiring my brain and biasing it towards positivity. So I'll choose optimistic because it's something that I'm especially proud of as a personality trait.
Very good.
Got it. You did a good job kind of, having 2 there and then picking one. So, Thank you for that. Kryptonite. So pressure is on, things get hard. We make gutsy decisions like, I don't know, leaving corporate and going off on our own. Our superpowers: invert, high Sarah Glover, shadow side, kryptonite. The things that are strengths become weaknesses. Of these generic ones that are going to show up on any generic builder influencer profile readout, is there one of these or one-ish that you want to speak about that you feel is accurate, or that others have said about you, or that you experience in challenging times as a leader?
Yeah, this one was a lot easier because it is attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how bad I was about paying attention to the minutia until I was employee number one at a startup, and I was responsible for redlining the contracts.
Oh.
And you like really have to read every word.
Yeah.
And I came from a speech and debate background, and like that compounded with sales. I had spent years and years and years training myself to quickly scan for context. And then all of the sudden I had to read every dang word, because if I missed something, it could be detrimental to this bootstrap business. Like it could cause us to lose the business. And I immediately became painfully aware that I am atrocious at detail. And now that I create and I have to edit my own stuff, it's like a weekly, if not daily occurrence where I realize that I just missed a word, like grotesquely misspelled a word. Like it's the detail for me.
Like segmentum.
Or whatever it was that you had there. Yeah.
Segmentum.
Well, I think we're going to have an easy on-ramp to bloopers, I hope, anyway. Let me, Will, if you don't mind, just go back and talk a little bit about that. So,
don't mind at all.
I find it interesting how much you say you struggle with the detail orientation, because for me, for example, my D just follows right down here, right? And so, and your sense of urgency combines with that. And so this D coming back means, in sort of a shorthand way, because it's lower than your A, which is, we already talked about that, or to the left of your A. So that's what makes you a generalist. But that D coming back to us says, if it's important to you, you're going to know the details and be on top of it. If it's not important to you, you're going to, maybe you can't keep all of them going. So that's the plate that you let spin. What we find, this is more editorializing now, is in successful, more senior people, so spend some time in careers, they learn to build systems around themselves to make up for what they inherently know is a lower D than A, even though most people don't know what that sentence I just said means. So maybe you see some of that too.
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. It's there's something that I say to my husband very often, because I will be retelling a story and he'll ask me a follow-up question, and I'll say, I have no idea. I didn't ask. And he's like, why would you not ask? And I was like, well, because I didn't care what the answer was. So, but it's like something I very much know about myself, that if I don't care, like if I don't genuinely care and I'm not genuinely curious, I won't retain the information. So I just don't ask the questions anymore.
I like to say, if I don't want to know the answer, I don't ask the question. Or if I don't care about it.
It's usually after I've met a dog and he's like, oh, like what, like if somebody in the building, like what was the owner's name? And I'm like, oh, I know the dog's name and the breed and how old they are.
Dog, yeah.
I actually couldn't even pick the owner out of a lineup. Didn't even make eye contact with them.
Happens all the time. All right, Will?
Yeah. By the way, John, great call out on going back to that hookback D and explaining that with Leslie and with the audience, that piece about whether or not it matters to you.
Right.
Really, really, comes into view when you talk about why that D hooks back.
I think this is the moment in the show where we say, hold for applause. Good. We'll put that in post.
Like,
okay.
In summary, the names of dogs matter. Contractual legalese does not.
Yeah. We're in the same spot. All right. Moving on. This is the crisscross segment. And it's a crisscross segment because Leslie decided to give us a jumble of responses for her superpowers and kryptonite. So we are going to roll with that, and Will is going to grill her, not really, on what she wrote, and we're going to get into it a little bit. So Will, do your thing. Oh, and use purple.
You're going to grill me on my inability to follow directions.
Well, that was the subtext. But
look at that.
Look at you.
Well, I am going
even hanging over the edge, it will stall like you saw happen to me.
See, I've mastered how to grab this thing. No, I haven't.
Will's
You're
been
right.
waiting the entire
Oops.
show just to use the arrow.
Yeah, that's true. All right, there it is.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. What I will do before I get into this is thank Leslie for doing the homework at all.
Correct.
And for giving us something to build this segment off of. She was mentioning to John and I the amount of prep that she put into coming on the show today, and we're grateful for that, no matter what,
And it's more
whether
than
you
we
follow
did.
directions or not.
It's more than we did, Will. So I'm grateful.
0.
Well, you showed up.
Just like the other 30
You put a
shows.
shirt on.
Yeah, I did. I did put on a shirt with a collar.
Yep.
And it's clean.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell you that I'm wearing slacks that match, but this is just upper torso, world that we live in now here, post 2020. So you can have business on the front or business on top and party on the bottom if you want. You know what I'm saying?
I know what I'm cutting out of this pod.
Superpowers and Kryptonite, the crisscross segment, which makes me think of a 90s song that I won't sing for you right now. But let's talk about this stuff, Leslie. You went to the extent to put these bullets together and to comment on yourself. And I'm going to ask you to kind of talk us through these. And then as we are going through your share and why you wrote what you wrote, I may, ask you to hold a second and ask a question or two and try to, direct the conversation towards the kryptonite side of things.
Yes.
Sure. Absolutely.
So why did you pick these?
Yeah. I mean, I think something that's worth mentioning contextually is that when I was completing the OAD, which was maybe like 2 months ago, I found myself struggling to answer the questions in a way that was true for present Leslie, like a year post corporate America, versus the 15 years of history. So it was really interesting, I think, as I went through the questions to maybe knee-jerk go one direction with an answer and then have to say, wait, is that true anymore? Like, is that actually still true in this current context? One of the things when we look at that generic kryptonite and superpower slide, one of the things that showed up in the superpower column that surprised me was delegation. Delegation is a superpower. And so you see that that's the first bullet point here because it is something I really struggled with my entire career, really struggled with for reasons of not feeling like for a lack of psychological safety, I guess is probably the best way of putting it. But I struggled to delegate because I felt that delegation meant I might not be indispensable. I struggled to delegate because I think I was just kind of a jerky little 20-year-old that was like, oh, it's just easier if I do it myself. And as I have grown sales team builder, and then particularly in the last 18 months, as I am a solopreneur and full-time founder, delegation has become a superpower because I don't want to work more. I want to work the least amount I can while accomplishing all of my aspirations. So right now, I think I have like 7 different freelancers that I delegate and outsource to. So that was an exciting one to see.
That was good. And Will, my software went crazy. All of a sudden, I was gone.
It did. I just kind of rolled with it. I figured you'd be back.
Yeah, I'll be back.
We could hear you. So you were like a Wizard of Oz sort of figure.
You can hear me.
Live TV, man. Before we leave this section here on the delegation, I think you made a great point. It was always an ability to delegate. But for you, it sounds like in the beginning, it was more of a turf thing. Like, this is mine. I need to show my worth. I need to, secure my position. If I own it and, crush it, then I'm good. But as you get further along in your career and develop as a leader, and whether you're delegating to freelancers or to staff members, there's just only so much that you can do. And you need to do those things that you do really, really well. And then those things that you either don't have the bandwidth for or are not part of your suite of strengths, you delegate to others who it's either A, because I want to focus on other things like working a 4-day work week, or B, this freelancer is just far better at this than I am.
Right.
And that is what you have figured out as a leader, and as you've evolved in your career, personally and professionally, and figured out, I would assume, what's most important to you. And it isn't about proving whether I'm worth it or not anymore, or fighting for my own job. Now, you value those that have proven to you that they can take care of things once delegated.
You're so right. I would say my ability or openness to delegation increased, like in direct positive correlation to an increase in the psychological safety that I felt professionally. And clearly, as I gained seniority, I felt more psychologically safe. And now I try to embrace a model where if somebody else can get it done at least 70% as well as I could get it done myself, that's enough. So maybe I have to start and end it. But if I can pay, $15-20 an hour and get it 70% done, that's an incredible use of delegation.
And I like this question about delegation. Do you find yourself being the bottleneck to projects?
No.
There you go. You see, you know not to do that. I've worked for bosses and whoever who have to hang on to everything, and they become a bottleneck. So you're not. So okay.
All right, John gets bored easily.
I do.
It says here that you do too. Can you dig into that bullet a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I think a little bit of that is just my ADHD, whatever, happens to a lot of us. And I'm an input person. Like, I am super curious. I like to voraciously consume inputs. I don't necessarily like to go super, super, super deep on them. I just like to get a lot up here. So it has truly been a superpower for me throughout my sales career, because I have been able to switch personas and products and, sales environments with a lot of ease, because I learn quickly and I really enjoy that change. I really enjoy that newness. But I think the counterpoint to that is that if it does bore me, it is extremely difficult for me to pay attention. And part of being a business owner is still like doing my fresh books. Like, there are things that are a bit tedious that you can, but I'm not trying to like outsource my fresh books as a brand new business owner. Maybe that'll be an evolution.
So I was stepping on your line. We may have a sponsor opportunity here with the FreshBooks. How good are FreshBooks, Leslie?
Tell us. I really like them because I can send invoices out to my clients directly from FreshBooks. I probably don't use their full capabilities, but
you like that. Great. Well, that's going to make an edit. Okay. Keep going, Will.
Oh, thank you, John.
Yeah, I got bored.
I know you did. Right before we leave this point, though, thankfully you brought up a point of failure with the boredom. Do you find that you correlate boredom and procrastination? Do you also put off those things that bore you, or will you buckle down and do them when they have to get done?
Because I don't medicate my ADHD, I have developed just a tremendous amount of coping mechanisms around it. And so one of the frameworks that I use is around my to-do list. It's a framework I made myself because I'm best at following my own rules and kind of terrible at following other people's instructions. But it's do, delegate, delete, or diarize. So if something's been on my to-do list for more than 2 weeks, I either have to do it within 24 hours, delegate it, or just admit it's not that important to me and delete it. Or if it's less of a to-do and more of a dream or aspiration, I'll move it to my journal.
Really nice.
So I think, yes, I have that coping mechanism developed because procrastination would be my default otherwise.
Yeah. Well, that's a great answer. I appreciate that. Here we go. Last bullet. We've had a lot of guests on this show that end up upper right and also end up with this same, you know, same habit, same weakness, same, complete inability to help themselves from saying yes. Right. And then, trying to please others, overcommitting, what that can lead to. Sounds like that you are a serial offender here, but how did you figure it out and what have you done about it?
Yeah, I am a serial offender to the extent that I have so deeply prioritized people pleasing over listening to my own needs that I have burned out not once, not twice, but 3 separate times in my career, like bad burnout. And frankly, it took the 3rd time for me to admit how big of a problem it was. And it took a lot of journaling and therapy and reflection to realize where a lot of it was coming from. And certainly there are some like big societal factors at play, particularly for women. A lot of it for me was coming for a feeling of seeking external validation for my worth instead of just believing I was worthy myself. So it's not, unfortunately, like a silver bullet answer that everybody listening can just be like, oh, I'll go do that.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Years and years of deep work to come back to a point where I tell myself and I'm convincing myself that I am worthy just because I am a human being, not because I need to do anything to deserve that respect.
Beautiful. And you came on our show. So
the endorphins that it releases when you say yes, not only because like, oh, I said yes and I made this person happy, but now I get to show what I can do. Like it's an addiction.
Yeah.
And we'll move on from this, but speaking from my perspective, as someone who has had this same problem, I mentioned earlier that my wife is my business partner. She owns a company. She runs it. And she watched me do this and instructed me all along and called it out time and again. And it still took me years to stop it and to really hear her. And like you said, it took you three burnouts, right? Like I'm certain you had people in your ear that are close to you saying, hey, stop that. Hey, this isn't good. And, you just continue to consume until the point that you figure out that it's enough. But if you don't figure it out, particularly if you're a solopreneur,
we'll burn you out.
It'll sink the company if you don't get it on track.
Yeah. It's a tough one too, because it seems counterintuitive to say that helping people is bad.
It does. But
if you're helping people at the expense of your own physical and mental well-being, then it's sure not good.
No. And it's like in the when you're on a flight and they tell you to put your mask on first.
Hey, that's my line.
I know. But you were busy moving the slides around and
this purple arrow is
you missed your opportunity, John.
No, I
lost my train of thought because you popped a hole in it.
Guys, this is lightning round because TikTok executive producer says our guest has the hard stuff.
Okay. All right. Lightning. So thank you, Leslie, going through this exercise. You took the assessment, you read the results, you went through a readout with John, you did this homework for us. You took your own notes. We had this conversation today. You said that you love these kinds of assessments and tools. You've probably experienced several of them. What did you gather from this experience with OAD, with breaking yourself down with me and John, and coming on the pod and talking about leadership strengths and weaknesses, superpowers, kryptonite? What have you gathered from all this that you can apply to your own work, to those that you work with Was there some value that came out of this? It either reinforced some things you already knew, maybe pointed out some things that you hadn't thought about in a while, et cetera? Help me.
Yeah, I would say two things, Will. One was just that process of reflection as I was actually taking the assessment to push myself to be like, oh, is that actually true about me today? Or was that an older version of me? And being able to say, no, that's not true anymore. Like my gosh, look at the growth I've experienced in just 1 year.
Right.
So that was really powerful. And I think just a fun exercise in reflection. And I would say the other piece was really thinking about delegation and like looking at the progress I've made on delegation and knowing to your point that it probably was a skill that I always possessed and just never used. And now that I use it and use it frequently, how much better it has made my life.
That's very Wizard of Oz, right? You always had the power.
Right.
That might make the pod. Awesome. Will.
So you went through this with us and you haven't left yet. That's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have had some guests exit. I'm kidding. We haven't. But if you enjoyed this experience, who would you say in your network or that you're connected to professionally or personally might also enjoy going through this with us, would find some value in it and, could benefit and would be a fun guest to have on the pod and would probably say yes, like you did when Jared Robin said you were next?
Yes. I'm trying to think of people that also are on a journey of growth and self-reflection, because I think a lot of the value of the assessment comes, I would guess, from people that are open to listening to the results.
Yes.
The person that popped into my head straight away is Meghann Misiak. She's incredible. She's somebody that we sort of refer to each other as co-mentors. We're both in sales, but kind of do different jobs. She's younger than me by like quite a few years, but somebody that's been a mentor in terms of her spiritual growth.
Yeah.
She's incredible. I would recommend her.
Had a post together where you met in real life for the first time, right?
Yeah, we did in Madrid last week.
That's great. No, I know her not well. So, Meghann, it's been a while. You're going to hear from us very soon.
Yes, please help us with that connection, Leslie.
Of course, it would be my pleasure. And then maybe one more would be Galem Girmay. I don't know if you follow her as well. She was actually Jared's co-founder when they launched Rev Genius. And she is fierce. Like, she is smart and bold and kind, and like she's just really a person that checks all the boxes when it comes to showing up authentically. And I think she would be a good guest as well.
Love that. After the show, we will ask you, when we send you our thank you gift, we'll ask you if you will make a contact to them. And I'm John Lane.
He is. And I'm, oops.
See, it's stuck. That's what
I did actually, and I'm oops. Good night.
We're clearly a work in progress.
Wait, we did not get that right because you were elsewhere. Let's do it again. I'm John Lane.
I am Will Barfield.
And clearly we are all a
work in progress.
Awesome show. Thank you. Bye,
thank you, Leslie. It was great. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Cut. Amazing. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That was fun, right?
It was.
Worth the homework, I hope. Okay.
It was.
We want to get you out of here with maybe a bio break before your next meeting. So we are going to jump into bloopers if you're ready.
I am ready.
Will, are you ready? Well, you're never ready. All right. I want to make this arrow go away because I can. I have that power. In 3, in 2, in 1. All right, Will, we're wrapping up the week again. What's the segment called?
This is called our blooper segment. And this is where we talk about mistakes that we have made, and we hope that our WIP-ster listeners can learn from them. Kryptonite bloopers, learn from our mistakes.
Would you like me to go first? Or you want to go first?
I would love for you to go first so I can come up with one in time.
Okay, well, it showed up. It might even be our cold open earlier in this when we put this.
Yeah.
I am the king of typos, and I called a penalty on myself. I was doing last week's episode with Liam, and I always put in our editing what episode it was. It was episode 29. And I finally finished. It was Sunday night. I was tired, and I looked at it again, and it was 39. And I was like, screw it, I'm not going back and changing it. So I just circled it in the video and said, whatever, 29, 30. So that's me just going too fast, not paying attention to details, and probably triple tasking when I was doing it. So don't do what I did. Will.
So you remember, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, John, in the Kryptonite bloopers, we discussed the fact that I was working on trying to land a deal.
Yeah,
and that I was trying to fight that compulsion to be driving and to send that next email because I thought that the gap in communication was too great.
Yeah.
And I told you I was going to see if I was able to behave myself.
Yes.
And I was not. And
Yeah.
we admit that these are superpowers and kryptonite.
Yeah.
I was not. And ultimately it ended up putting me at a disadvantage in the negotiation. So, shame on me.
If you want it so badly, it's hard to negotiate.
It is very challenging. And, what I should have done was stop and ask my wife what she would do. And then I wouldn't have done it. But
you probably still would have done it.
She wasn't around. So, I was a bad boy.
Leslie.
Ooh, I have a good one. And it's related to not paying attention to the details.
Love it.
I create on TikTok under the handle @SalesTipsTalk, but I have a backup account that's just more fun. The content's more fun because it's not all business content.
Yeah.
And I was creating some new videos, and I accidentally created all of them on the backup account, which means none of them are usable because you cannot move content over. So I wasted over an hour recording content I cannot use.
Learn from our mistakes. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoyed it, Leslie.
Work in Progress is a podcast presentation of Slipshod Productions. Available on LinkedIn and YouTube. Executive produced and starring John Lane and Will Barfield. Talent booking, production, and editing by John Lane. Thanks for watching. See you next week.